Hi, this is Julian for Production Expert, and I've got an advanced copy of a new plugin from Brainworx, the BX2098 EQ. This is a model of an Amek EQ that was designed by Neve, and what it does is it takes the TMT technology that was used in the releases last year from Brainworx, the console E, G and N, and uses it on this piece of hardware, and the results seem very promising from what I've done with it so far. Here I'm showing both the stereo and mono versions, and everything that's available in the mono is available in the stereo, so I think we'll concentrate on that one. So in the UI we have adjustable input gain, plus or minus 12 dB, with a polarity switch. We've got high and low pass filters, which seem to me to be probably 12 dB per octave, and individually switchable with a reasonable amount of range for what they're designed to be doing, so 20 to 300 and 4.5K to 30K. We've got low and high shelves, which are both sweepable and offer either plus or minus 18 dB, or they are switchable to plus or minus 9 dB, as are the two mid-range bands, which would be very useful in subtler uses, for example, mastering or bus processing, but plus or minus 18 by default. We have these mysterious glow and sheen switches on the shelves, which I've had a play with these to kind of figure out what they do. And what they seem to do is they extend the corner frequency and shallow the slope of these shelving filters a lot, like an awful lot. So, for example, when I might be working at maybe 100 Hertz with the low shelf and giving it a little bit of a boost, I can get something that's kind of different but similar ballpark by coming all the way down to 30 Hertz with glow in. And you find that you have a shallower slope extending further up into the spectrum. So interesting controls, those ones. In the low and high mid frequency bands, respectively, we've got sweepable frequency, plus or minus 18 or 9 dB again, with adjustable Q. And we've also got this notch filter. When this notch filter is engaged, the gain control goes to cut only from unity down to minus 19. Useful for eliminating problem frequencies, and we take stuff like that for granted these days with digital EQs, but when this hardware was around, that would have been a very useful feature indeed. Along the bottom row we have a channel link, which is obviously disengageable. We can switch from left-right operation to MS. This is a Brainworx plugin, so obviously it's got some MS stuff because they're very keen on MS, as they should be, over at Brainworx. We have the TMT section here where we can switch between pairs of channels. We can assign a random channel if we want to and just take potluck. And we've also got this analog or digital mode. And what that means is that in analog we get pairs odd to even, like you would do with pairs of channels, mono channels on a console. But in digital we can have the same channel twice. We've got the mono maker and stereo width controls, which are common to some other Brainworx EQs. Mono maker excludes frequencies below this corner frequency from any widening effect, and we have this stereo width, which will be manipulating the sides channel, raising the level of it to increase the perceived stereo width. We've got THD, which introduces subtle amounts of odd order harmonic distortion. So that's quite nice, and having checked it out, it does seem to favour the odd order harmonics. Meters, pre and post EQ and an overall output, and a balance and correlation meter. Finish things off nicely. We can, of course, individually switch each channel in and out, and we've got that up here as well in terms of having solo, mid and sides controls, which is a nice addition, because otherwise all you could do is turn one down rather than turn it off using these input trim controls. So that's a tour of the UI. So here it is in use across the output of a mix. Quite a few issues in there. First thing I'm hearing is way too much 100 Hertz. So if I dial in somewhere around 100 Hertz, bring that in, that's the stuff, too much of that. Here I've got plus or minus 9 because I really don't need that big a cut. Now that's working. Could do with a bit of lift at the top. So here, around 12k, dial that in, maybe about 3 dB, why be shy? And that's doing what it should, it's catching the top of the cymbals. But if I dial in sheen, we can hear that's catching the edge of the guitar and the top of the snare. Let's move that lift right the way down the spectrum. So I think I'll leave that disengaged. So we could do with a bit more deep stuff. So I think I'll dial in maybe kind of right down here. That's kind of better, but low is kind of undoing what we did with the low mid frequencies there, so I'll leave that out, but maybe a little lift, not too much. Okay, but maybe a little bit of high pass, just to keep the really deep stuff under control. And that's not audible, which is what I want. So, okay, so that's quickly dialing something in, well, before and after. However, what we haven't done is looked at MS use. Here we are in mid-side, and I will solo up the sides channel. And I think we'll lose all the low stuff from out the sides channel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to dial in nice big boost. We're not in plus or minus 9 anymore, so that's like 6 dB, around 10k maybe. Let's have a listen. We'll listen to what sheen does on there. And that really isn't what I want to be capturing here, but because that's on the sides channel, we've lifted that, that'll result in a stereo spread. This might actually be a good time, if we undo that, to have a quick listen to the differences between these are very subtle, but if we bypass in and out, we're hearing that characteristic widening of a louder sides channel. And particularly because I have the THD wound in. So if I take that out, we'll listen to it in isolation. And that's adding quite a bit of density to that boosted top end. So there we go. And then if I bypass both of those, and there we are, that's what we can do with just an instantiation of the BX2098 across the outputs of this mix. So what do I think of the BX2098 EQ? I have to say I like it. It's a high quality emulation of a piece of hardware that hasn't, to my knowledge, been modelled anywhere else, and considering it's Rupert Neve design, that's kind of surprising. I really like this current generation of kind of TMT modelling that Brainworx have been doing. I really like the console stuff, and this is a great addition to that stuff. It's flexible enough to get the job done without offering endless choices. I particularly like it in the mid-range, where I find it quite useful in all those kind of difficult frequencies that lie in that region. In terms of cons, I did find myself wanting a bit more range on the top of the range of the high-mid frequency EQ, which tops out at 4.5k, and I found myself wanting to go slightly higher a few times, but that's not really a valid criticism, just because if they're modelling the hardware, and that's what the hardware did, then it would be wrong to change that. This is very much a character EQ that's kind of very polite and sounds good on anything.